Now, I'll make one more, if I could, about American funds. There are a lot of managed mutual funds that can't outperform that bucket of 500 companies. Okay? As a matter of fact, 80 to 90% managed funds can't outperform that index. I challenge you to look at some of the returns in these funds. They often outpace the indexes, okay, the appropriate index to the fund. That information you can get on the website, and I can also share it with you. It's a good benchmark to look at whether a fund is keeping up with its peer group. If they can't keep up with an index, basically a little no-brainer over here, just a basket of stocks, why pay the money to be actively managed? Okay, fair question. Okay, so one of the reasons I bring American funds to the table, because they can beat those indexes. Just a quality fund group.
How often can we change funds within the American funds?
You can change it as often as you like. Not encouraged, and I say that because you really don't, you don't want to manage a mutual fund, okay? There are guys and gals that are very smart running these companies. Let them do their job. Your job would be to simply design a proper allocation and stick with it, okay? You don't want to buy and sell mutual funds. It's not what they're designed for, okay? That's what you're hiring a fund company to do. Let them do their job, okay? And switching around trying to chase, you'll always be a day late, okay? I promise you. I've gotten caught up in the hype. Everybody that's gotten involved in stocks at some point in their life, it's very emotional. And you have to take the emotion out, okay? You have to simply stick to the plan and not let the idea that you can go out and beat the guys and gals up on Wall Street, because you'll always be too late. Okay? They're always ahead of you. I wouldn't want to play in that game. Okay? You do what you do, and let them do what they do. Okay? Stop watching CNBC. Okay? It's the CNBC addicts. You don't want to watch that stuff on TV.
So on that last question, they can choose how it's invested from what is offered here.
That's right.
They can't pick something that's not here.
That's right.
Can you go? Can you go over the A, B, C shares?
Yes.
That's
And who would, like, in each situation, who should be buying which type?
Yes.
And then explain what the difference in the expenses is between them.
That's right. That's a good place to end, because it's the most important part, which is how I get paid, how these people get paid, okay, how the industry works. A, B, and C shares are simply different ways for you to buy a mutual fund. Okay, it's a different way for you to pay, and they all are very valid for different type of people. A shares, 20, 30 years ago, that's all there were. Okay, A shares, you have $100. You want to put it in a mutual fund. You're going to pay a brokerage fee, just like buying a stock. Okay, up front. So you put 100 in. Let's use round numbers. You can pay 5%. Okay, or $5 out of your 100. It's going to go to the dealer down in Dallas. Part of that's going to come to me to be your broker, and you're done. Okay, there are no penalties for taking the money back. You've paid. Okay, the operating expenses, which we'll talk about through all three of these share classes. It's important to get it out of the way up front. To understand that if these folks take $1 billion, they take a small percentage of those assets, okay, which is it's published in each one of these funds. They take a small percentage of that, skim it off the top, if you will, put it over here in the bank. That's what they use to pay their salaries, their light bills, their travel expenses. They're going to these board of directors meetings. They're sitting in on Google's board of directors meeting. Okay, that's what they use to pay themselves. The $5 I said that came off the top for an A share, that's for me to sell it. Okay, I do not manage money. I manage people. They manage money. Okay, very big difference in roles. Operating expenses are where you can get burnt in mutual fund investing, because if you don't pay attention to it, it can be a very high number. Okay, very high number. The average operating expense for a let's use a growth and income stock fund. It's not uncommon to see 1.5% for them to charge 1.5%. Okay, one of the things that American Funds is known for are being, and that's for being one of the most efficiently run mutual fund companies. Their operating expenses are typically half of the industry average. Their Washington Mutual Fund, they actually amassed such a large bucket of money after the downfall in 99 and 2000 that they reduced their operating expenses. Now it's down below 60 basis points, which is just above 0.5%, 0.57%. Okay, so that's how they get paid and how they get the operating money to run their fund, to do what they do for you. Okay, very important. And if you look in this book, you'll see down at the bottom of each one of the snapshots. Okay, you'll see an industry average for operating expenses. Look at the very first one, which is the AMCAP fund. Okay, down at the bottom, 1.15 is the industry average for this type of fund. Now this is a pure stock fund, 100% stock. AMCAP fund is 0.65%, almost half. Very, very, very efficiently operated, very efficient. You can go through and look at the operating expenses on the bottom of each one of those, and you'll see that they're consistently half of the industry average. Okay, very conscious about the shareholder in this fund company. Very conscious. Let's go back now that you know about the operating expense, and we'll talk back about the A share. These operating expenses you see in this book are for the A share. Okay, now we'll talk about the B share. I'd say the late 80s, early 90s brought on mass commercialism of mutual funds. You had indexes show up on the scene, Vanguard being one of the biggest ones. And all of a sudden we had television, newspapers, magazines selling mutual funds, and they didn't like the broker. You can do this stuff yourself. Okay? And they have what's called no-load mutual funds, which means you can, just like going to Home Depot and buy the lumber and build your own house, you can go do your own thing with mutual funds if you feel confident enough to do so. Okay? In order to compete, the managed fund companies decided that they would do the same thing. We'll do this. We won't charge you that $5, 5% of your 100, but you got to stay with us. If you stay with us for, let's say, 7 years is the typical, we won't charge you when you leave. But if you come in and you don't pay the sales charge up front, leave 2 years later, in other words, cash your money out of American funds. I'm not talking about switching money from one fund to the other. Mm-hmm. Out of this fund company into Fidelity. Okay? They're going to get you with a deferred sales charge. Okay? And it's a declining sales charge. The longer the time, the lower the sales charge is. What they're doing is simply recovering the money that they're giving the broker, because I still get paid. Okay, so it's not that I get paid any different on all three of these that I'll share with you, the A, B, and C. Okay, but it makes it a little more psychologically acceptable, I guess, for some people to say that I put 100 in my account, I have 100 in my account. But beware, the operating expense for the B share, okay, will be higher, because what they're doing is charging you more to recover the fees that the dealer and the broker charge. Okay, so it could be another 0.5%. Okay, and I'd encourage you to, and I can print them off for you or send you right to the website. You know, the internet's a beautiful thing now. I don't have to bring prospectus information in. You can get it right on the AmericanFunds.com website. Their prospectus information will show you the expense ratios for all the share classes. Okay. So that's B share. Come on in free, but you got to stay with me. Okay, or I'm going to charge you when you walk out the door. Okay. The latest and the greatest, which I would.
When does a B convert to an A?
B converts to an A after 10 years. Automatically converts. Automatically converts. In most any fund company, that's typically the schedule.
Okay.